Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking Verasity VRA. They've had some incredible updates to their patents as well as an updated roadmap, which they recently launched. We're going to cover that, some Verasity news, as well as some price and chart analysis for VRA. So let's hop right in. Now, really quickly, before we hop into the recent VRA news, just want to make everyone aware that I have a free chart pattern guide for my subscribers. If this looks at all helpful, just drop your email down in the description below and I'll send that off to you. With that out of the way, let's dive right in. So really important to start off around these patents, right? So VeraViews, obviously the flagship product now for Verasity, really starting to pick up some steam. So now we're seeing patents in Hong Kong and Eurasia coming out. And this is important to note that it follows the successful patent approval in the US and China, which are the world's two largest advertising markets. So now going forward, it should be a little easier to have the precedent to receive other patents in major advertising markets. Now, Veracity's analysis of Hong Kong is really insightful. They're basically saying a total advertising spend of almost $3 billion, and a considerable amount of the spend is comprised of digital advertising. So the advertising industry in Hong Kong is flourishing and growing at a rapid rate. So that's why they're targeting Hong Kong. There's a lot of opportunity there for ad fraud and for correcting that. The other market is Eurasia. So this is going to be a lot of your countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Russia, and a lot of these countries speak Russian. So it's really, really important to get into these Russian-speaking countries for Verasity. Collectively, these Eurasian countries make up billions of dollars in advertising spend, and of course, that means that there's going to be ad fraud following that ad spend, which is where Verasity and VeraViews are going to make a lot of their money. Now, identifying and storing data on these threat actors in terms of where they're lying as cyber criminals in Russia is big as well. So if we think about a lot of these Eurasian countries, this is where a lot of those cyber criminals tend to operate out of, and that's another reason why they're looking to get this Eurasia approval on the patent office so quickly. Now, going into one of the biggest updates, it's around their new roadmap. So obviously Q2 is over and done with. Now we're going into Q3, Q4. And now they've kind of updated this with some of what they've completed and what's coming with a little bit of context as well. So if we look at Q3 and talk about, what they've been able to accomplish now, it's all about implementing what they have already built in Q1 and Q2. So obviously they have VeraViews launched to Brightcove, which has over 30,000 publishers. They're officially approved and it's on there ready and able to use for all Brightcove publishers. They're still working on onboarding new ad networks and they are also working on completing the product launch and marketing materials rollout for VeraViews. Now, if we look at a Q4, it's going to be all about optimizing and expanding their current footprint. So what can they do beyond Brightcove? How do they make sure that this becomes an extremely sticky product that brings in a lot of revenue? So if we look here, it's a lot about expanding programmatic ad support, which is what most people do. Programmatic ads are similar to, lookalike audiences on Facebook ads, if you've run those before. But it's all about running ads on statistics and data. That's what programmatic advertising is. And so they're looking to support more of that. They're also looking to develop case studies for successful uses of VeraViews amongst very established publishers. So, you can only imagine the impact of, let's say, a case study from Nike that says, hey, we saved $50 million in ad spend, over $1 billion in ad spend. And what that did for, our specific use case is XYZ. You can see how impactful that would be for other clients looking into Verasity. Now, if we go down and think about what kind of the next big keys are going to be, it's really going to be about onboarding new ad networks. So you can see here in this ad network section, it's really going to be about onboarding people and networks past Brightcove, right? Brightcove is a great place to start. There are a lot of big publishers, 30,000 of them, over 30,000 on that network, but it's going to be going beyond that and making sure that they can get a wider, larger market, because obviously the total advertising market is around $800 billion. And I don't know how much of that is on Brightcove, but it's not all of that, right? So they're looking to get into more ad networks and, basically have some industry influence across VeraViews. And that's really what they're looking to do. And once this launches, we're going to see a lot of token burns, which obviously means a lot of upside for the token price. So just to recap really quick before we move on from the roadmap, Q1 and Q2 were all about building. Q3 is all about implementing, which is what we're in right now. Implementing VeraViews, making sure it works, making sure people are happy with it. And then Q4 is all going to be about optimizing and expanding. So getting into new ad networks, making sure case studies are coming out, making sure that all of kind of the ducks are lined in a row in terms of how VeraViews is being used so that we can expand it to other markets and hopefully see some value add there. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on is this really cool article that came out about, I think this was just a couple days ago, came out about how, how large the global advertising market is and that it's facing a real downturn next year. So there's $850 billion in global advertising. And basically this article is saying, as households drastically cut back, so will companies, due to that on their marketing budgets, right? So they'll have to cut back on marketing spend because consumers are cutting back as well. And, I think initially on its face, this seems like, okay, well, if they're spending less on advertising, VeraViews won't be as impactful. But I think that the CEO from Verasity makes a really, really good point. He calls out this article and he says, hey, given 60% of ads is fraud, where are the highest savings for brands? It's going to be making sure that they're getting the most return on investment on their ad spend, right? So why not use VeraViews and have that integration work for you where you can actually make sure that all your ad spend is going to the right place and you're kind of basically using the most out of your budget as possible. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see where this goes. I think it's a great case for, companies to be saving money on ad spend. Obviously, this market is huge, and if Verasity is able to execute on this, it means a ton of upside for the project. So really, really excited to see how they're able to identify the fraud on the ads and see how this works for some of the first customers. Now, going in really, really quick to the chart analysis piece, I just want to touch on a few things really, really quickly. So first of all, we've had kind of this little kind of bit of a consolidation period. What happened here recently is we tried to essentially flip this previous resistance into support. We lost that support, and now we're kind of fluctuating back at that 0.05 support that was established back in late July. So now we're kind of fluctuating in this area between that blue line and that yellow line. So, at least in the next, week or so, I can expect that, and you can probably expect that, we're going to see some movement within that channel. Now, given that, I do think that there is a, somewhat of a chance, especially, hinging on Bitcoin and Ethereum, since this is an altcoin, there's definitely a decent chance we see a return to the 0.04 support and even drop below that. And below that, our target's going to be 0.03, given that was our resistance here baked into the chart back in February of 2021. So that would be the next level we're looking at if we can't hold 0.05 as a support, and if we drop below that 0.04 mark as support, which was actually our lowest point in terms of Veracity's price in recent history. So if we drop below that, I think we can expect a 0.03, 0.035 compared to the resistance that we saw previously. Now, to the upside, I would say that our next critical point past the obvious 0.07 right here, which is where we got up to just a couple days ago, or maybe a week ago at this point, our next level is going to be 0.085. Now, that was a huge resistance previously. You can see we tried to get it here. We tried to get up there again here, tried to get up there again here, and we weren't quite able to do it. Now, that would be a very, very big moment for Verasity to get up and above this and maybe consolidate up here. But again, that's going to be more on the short term. If we're looking more long term, really the key level for a full-on bullish reversal of Verasity is going to be this 2 cent to 2.5 cent level. Once we cross that, we can really start talking about somewhat of a U-shaped recovery for Verasity, maybe going back to the upside and looking bullish into the mid to long term, right? So that's really the level that I'm watching more on a mid to longer term spectrum. Obviously, short term, we're really, really hoping to hold this 0.05 support and then that 0.04 support. But in terms of where we want to go to the midterm, we're looking at 0.08 and then hopefully getting up to, 2 cents next in the middle, or sorry, at the beginning of next bull run, hopefully reaching that point. And hopefully in the next, within the next year getting up there. What I would say, especially on my last Verasity video, we had a lot of questions and comments around more of a long-term outlook in Verasity, and not just, the next few months, not just the next year, not just, the next week. If we want to talk more long-term, we definitely need to rely on our fib retracement. So according to the fib retracement from our all-time high to the most recent low, our kind of max fib scale that we're looking at least for the long term, is about 35 cents based on that most recent all-time high. So I think that is kind of where we need to be starting at from a realistic, long-term target. So if we look here from this kind of baseline back in July of 21, the low there, up to the high of where we struck just in November of last year, we're looking at almost a 10x, right? Now, if you've been in crypto for a little bit, as these coins go through different cycles, the amount that they grow per cycle, so that kind of exponential, whether it's 2x, 3x, 4x, that usually tends to shrink as you go through your cycle. So what I'm trying to say here is I wouldn't expect another 900% pump from our most recent all-time high. That would put us up at like 75 cents. I don't think 75 cents is realistic for quite some time. I'll obviously a lot of people calling for $1. I don't think that's quite realistic. I think 35 cents is extremely realistic, because that puts us at about a third and a little over a third of what we were able to do from that super low to the all-time high, right? And generally, we're seeing a fractional difference between that pump before in a bull market and the most recent pump ahead, right? So I wouldn't expect 900% from our all-time high like we did last time. I would expect something a little bit more reasonable. So if we go high to high here, you're looking at 60% there, but obviously this is in one bull market, right? If you get, and that wasn't, a big run from here to here. But what I'm looking for is something between, 300% and 800% in terms of our next big run. I think 35 cents, 36 cents is quite realistic in terms of our ability in the next couple of years to get somewhat of a higher price point. But that's really what I'm seeing right now, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. A lot of exciting news coming out about Verasity, a lot of updates. So I'm going to keep you guys updated, but let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to hear from me. But thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.